Hey, good evening, sports fans, and welcome back to the Missouri Sports Network, MissouriSportsNetwork.com, where everyone has a home field advantage. And as always, the Missouri State Highway Patrol reminds us to take that 3 seconds and buckle up. It's 3 seconds that could save your life. Be safe, be smart, and be here tomorrow. And as most of you know, my cerebral knowledge, academia, comes from reruns of Cheers and Seinfeld. But when I want to know about Kansas City Chiefs, I go to Matt Derrick. And Matt Derrick is currently the publisher and lead beat writer for ChiefsDigest.com, an independent news site covering the Kansas City Chiefs, dedicated to provide original reporting and breaking news. And I tell you what, Matt, this is your second time being a part of the Missouri Sports Network, but you may have to kind of talk me down off the ledge a little bit here as we're getting ready for uh, a huge game coming up in Kansas City on Sunday evening. What are your just original thoughts when you found out it was going to be Cincinnati?
Well, first of all, I was just relieved that didn't have to go to Atlanta. So the fact that this game is going to be at Arrowhead is a big relief for a lot of us here in Kansas City. But this is going to be a great game. I mean, obviously, these are two evenly matched teams. You look at the last three contests; they've gone down to the wire. They've been competitive, but they've been good games. These are two teams that I don't know if you necessarily say that they hate each other, but they are really good at talking trash and finding slights from each other. So I mean, it's fun. I mean, this is starting to look like it could be a really fun rivalry, and I'm looking forward to a good game on Sunday.
Yeah, and you look at Brady's gone and the Brady Manning. This could be that new rivalry there with Mahomes and Burrow, and I don't think you can still leave Jeff Allen or Josh Allen out of this uh, mix, but it's he'll be 4-0 if he wins Sunday night. Burrow will be 4-0 against Mahomes, and I think looking at the game, especially the last two, it's been about the halftime adjustments. The Chiefs have scored 6 points in the second half combined in the last two matchups. And what are some things that Spagnuolo is going to have to do to maybe change up? What are you looking at maybe him changing going in and into this defensively?
Yeah, and the Chiefs made a lot of changes this offseason as far as, their secondary goes, and a lot of them were driven by needing to get better against teams like this. I mean, they knew that they needed to get younger and faster on defense, but in the secondary, they knew that they needed to get bigger and leaner, and so that they go out and add five rookie defensive backs. To bring in Justin Reed to replace Tyron Matthew. So, they really achieved the first goal of getting younger and faster, but the guys that they targeted are all big guys, and that's because they're going to be going up against bigger receivers against all the good teams in the AFC. But Cincinnati's got loads of them, and that's one reason why I think the Bengals have been such a tough matchup for the Chiefs defense. So they go out and they get, Trent McDuffie's not the biggest guy in the world, but he's technically great at everything else. But Jalen Watts and Josh Williams, I mean, these are all guys 6 foot tall and lean and long. They can play with these guys, but in the first matchup, I don't know if they really let them unleash. I think that Spagnuolo's scheme in the first matchup back in November really kind of protected those young guys a little bit. Played a lot of zone, and Joe Burrow ate that up. I mean, they did really well against it. I think you're going to see something different this time around. I mean, I think that Spagnuolo this time will probably go with a little bit more aggressive man defense. It wouldn't surprise me at all. But the biggest thing is that they've got to get Joe Burrow on the ground. They've got to find a way to get some pressure on him, which they really didn't do in the last game. So, Spagnuolo, the way he does that, he likes to bring the blitzes. That's always going to be a part of it. Chris Jones has got to have a big game, but to me, if this Chiefs defense can find a way to get to Joe Burrow and to get him on the ground and affect that passing game, that's what they've got to do to win this game.
There's been a lot made of Chiefs when folks face them, they go to that Tampa two. The defense goes to that Tampa two deep safeties. Yeah, and that's what Tampa did. In that Super Bowl, Chiefs may be looking at having to go to it to a zero coverage with no help over the top, just to try and get Burrow onto the ground. Are they going to be able to stay with the Ty Higgins and the Jamal Chase? And that's then you got it. Then you've got Hurst, who suddenly kind of reemerged last week in Buffalo as at the tight end position. So it's again, I told you you're gonna have to talk me off the ledge here on some of this because I just don't see how the Chiefs win this game.
Well, like I said, I mean, so much of it's going to start up front and in the middle. I mean, Chris Jones. A lot of the talk has continued to circle the fact that Chris Jones still hasn't have a postseason sack, and this would be the great time to finally get one for him. But it all starts with him. I mean, and last time around, the Bengals did everything that they could to take him out of the game. And I think I heard something today, which was the philosophy with Chris Jones and the Bengals was that their approach with him was to make sure there's four hands on him at all time. That's what and if the Chiefs Bengals are going to do that, which I would expect them to do again, that's where Frank Clark, George Karlaftis, Carlos Dunlap have got to win their one-on-one matchups on the outside because that's where you got to get the pressure. If you're able to do that, and you're able to, Chris Jones is able to clog up the middle. I mean, everything starts there because one, you've got to take away the Bengals ground game because they have run the ball effectively against the Chiefs in the past. And I think the Chiefs, for the most part, have defended the Bengals pretty well. It's just that, Burrow has done a really good job and does a very fine job of checking down when he needs to. Both those running backs are effective pass catchers. So if there isn't anything downfield, he's willing to check down to those guys. And he's also willing to, just throw a jump ball up to Jamar Chase if he needs to. And last year that was a problem for the Chiefs. But I think with these younger, longer corners, I think they can defend that better. But a big part of this game is going to come down to, whether guys like Nick Bolton and Willie Gay and that linebacker group can step up because the middle of the field really is where the Bengals have had their most success. And so if they're able to do that again, that's going to be a problem. But I think Steve Spagnuolo is going to have some answers for this team this time.
And you look at maybe the obvious narratives coming in. You have the ankle sprain heard around the world. You've got Burrowhead Stadium. You've got things like that. You've got you had Trevor Lawrence a week ago saying, "Well, their stadium's not that loud." The one thing that cannot be controlled is the weather, and with what Cincinnati did a week ago in Buffalo, and that wasn't really even that close. To go to Buffalo and to manhandle them like they did in that weather. Does that weather and if the Chiefs get the snow, I know it's going to be cold. It's Kansas City. It's end of January, but does that weather maybe play an effect as well?
It could. And, right now, I mean, we're looking at the high temperature on Sunday being 22 degrees and there'll be a 5:30 kickoff. So, it's going to be the teens certainly during the game. Looks like snow's going to avoid for this game. So it's going to be dry. And if that's the case, I mean, that should be a little bit more of a level playing field for the defense. The Bengals have got three backup offensive linemen starting for them right now. And I think that worked out in their favor against Buffalo last week. That the weather really played into the hands of the offensive line that knows where they're going and knows what they're doing. And your defense, you've got to react to that. And I think you typically see that in this colder weather. One, I mean, it's going to be more difficult to throw the football, so that's going to affect both quarterbacks. We'll see how much the cold affects that ankle of Patrick Mahomes. It certainly can be one of those things where it stiffens up or gives him a little bit of problem during the game. But we're also talking about Patrick Mahomes. I mean, and this is a guy who can just flat out block out things. I'm really intrigued by the fact that, remember back in the Super Bowl against the Buccaneers, he was dealing with that turf toe that he suffered against Cleveland in the divisional round. And he says that turf toe is the worst injury he's had. It's certainly worse than the sprained ankle he's been dealing with right now. And yet, he ran for his life against the Buccaneers in that Super Bowl because there was nobody open, and he had his own backup offensive line, and he had to run like crazy. I think he's going to be more mobile this Sunday than people think that he will. I still think that Andy Reid's going to try and get him in the pocket and keep him there because I think there are opportunities there. But the real question is going to be, did Patrick Mahomes truly learn the lessons of the fourth quarter against Cincinnati last year? Because that's where they lost the game. They lost the game when they were unable to move the football against those two deep shells and the defense that the Bengals played. And if Patrick Mahomes is willing to move the ball down the field in 5-yard chunks, there's plays to be made. It's just that if he gets in the mindset that he needs to be moving the ball in 25-yard chunks, Bengals aren't going to allow that.
Right. Well, I'm going to give you just a couple of narratives on from my end, just looking at stats and looking at the game, and to kind of get your rebuttal or response. Number one, I think Jared McKinnon could become a big part of this game, especially if the weather's like it is. I think he was the NFL December Player of the Year, 6 touchdowns in consecutive games. He didn't get one last week, but with Mahomes, he's not going to be able to hold the ball as long because he's not going to be able to scramble and get out of trouble. I think Jared McKinnon could be a huge part or piece of this game. Well, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I absolutely think so. I mean, he became such a huge part of this offense at the end of the season. And one question I kind of had about McKinnon was, with his touchdown run was he poaching him a little bit from Travis Kelce, who was going through a bit of a touchdown, the slump at the end of the year? And I think it's kind of been either one. I mean, it depends on what defenses are there. I mean, I think the teams in the red zone were definitely trying to take out Kelsey in the second half of the season, and as a result, there were other guys open, and Mahomes found them. But McKinnon, there's no doubt. I mean, and some of the things that he does, the most important things, don't even show up in the box score, because last week, especially once Mahomes got that ankle injury in the second half, his pass protection and some of the blitzes that he picked up were absolutely crucial in that game.
Right. And another thing I look at is in recent games as the special teams, and Agnew, he averaged 43 yards a return on kickoff returns, and a couple of times he almost broke them, but he gave the Bengals short fields. Do they kick the ball out of bounds? Do they try and you got to kick it through the end zone and not give them an opportunity? What are your thoughts on the special teams there?
Yeah, and that's been a real problem for the Chiefs because, and part of it has been that they've got a lot of rookies. When you got 10 rookies on your team, most of them, if not all of them, are going to be playing on special teams. And, on the kick coverage team, for instance, the Chiefs have had 5, 6 rookies playing in that group. And, you say, oh, well, hey, that's what they're supposed to do. These are a lot of guys from college who haven't played special teams in years. So it is a learning curve for those guys. And last week you saw with Harrison Butker, he's still affected by that sprained ankle that he suffered earlier in the season and hasn't been 100%. And now your time of the year where the ball doesn't carry as well, those returns that Agnew had, those weren't supposed to be returnable kicks. That was Butker was trying to put him out of the end zone, and he didn't get him there. There was one that was kind of a mishit line drive, and the other one probably was a little bit more of if he just didn't have enough mustard on it. But they were trying to kick the ball out of the end zone and didn't get it done. So same thing this week. I mean, if you give Cincinnati some opportunities, they're going to take them. But if Butker's got to get them out of the end zone if they want to give their special teams a little bit more protection.
Yeah, and I'm a street guy as well. So I played baseball at the college level, had a 24 game hitting streak, came to an end. Went 0 for 31 at one point, and luckily that came to an end. But here you've got Burrow and Taylor, who are 3-0 on the road in the playoffs. You've got Burrow, who is 8-0 when the temperature is below 40 degrees. Surely that's got to come to an end.
Well, last week we were told that what was it? Trevor Lawrence was 36-0 on Saturdays, and that had to come to an end. Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt. There's a lot of in favor of the Bengals in this game, and you can absolutely look at the last 3 contests and that they've won them. On the flip side of it, you can also say these have been 3 games decided by 3 points that came down to the very end. It's not like the Bengals have just absolutely manhandled the Chiefs. I mean, the Chiefs had third quarter leads in every single one of these games. It's just been coming down to making plays at the end, and for the last 3 games, the Bengals have made those plays and the Chiefs haven't. Question's going to be, what's going to happen this week, and I tell you what, I mean, so much of everything that I've seen over Mahomes, covering him over the last 5 seasons, I'm not going to bet against him because this dude just seems to make plays when it matters.
Well, and you've got a Chiefs team with Mahomes, the starting quarterback, 4 times has scored 3 points or less in the second half. 2 of them have been against Cincinnati. That can't continue either.
No, and the fact that the Chiefs have been so bad in the fourth quarter, against the Bengals in these 3 games is really unexpected. I mean, they've had 6 drives in these 3 games, no touchdowns. They got 1 field goal, I believe, in that. They've got a couple of turnovers in that. That's not Chiefs like, but it has been against this team because, as you mentioned earlier, those second half adjustments that the Bengals defense has been able to make. If the Chiefs play a full game and they play the fourth quarter the way that they're capable of, this could be a different outcome.
Again, visiting with Matt Derrick, publisher and lead beat writer for ChiefsDigest.com and a Springfield native. And a little bit of conversations off the air that we're much closer connected than we thought we were. But Matt, give us just a best case scenario. I'm not asking you to pick a score, but yeah, I guess I will. Just pick a score. What are your thoughts going into this? Because I'm thinking if it gets into that over under where it's in the 52, 54 range, I think the Chiefs win. If it's below that, I think they're in trouble.
Yeah, and I probably should be in that category. I've picked the Chiefs to win the last 3 games, and after the last one, I said I'm not going to beat Charlie Brown and Lucy in the football and pick the Chiefs again. But I am. I mean, I am picking the Chiefs again, and a little bit of it is the situation. I won't lie. I mean, this feels like, as my dear late friend Therese Paylor used to say, Patrick Mahomes has these over my dead body games. And this has been the attitude this week with this team, is that, with this guy, is that no matter what the odds are against him, that he's going to try and take this thing through it. And like I said, more often than not, he's gotten that job done. I think they can get it done. The question is going to be if they can play a complete game and they can avoid mistakes. That's what's killed them in these 3 games against the Bengals. My head says absolutely take the Bengals in this game. My gut says the Chiefs are going to pull it out. I think it's going to be low scoring, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's in your ballpark too. And that philosophy that if it's a higher scoring game, it favors the Chiefs. But I'm going to go with a 3-point margin. Chiefs 24, Bengals 21.
Outstanding. Well, Matt, it's always a great pleasure and an honor to get to visit with you and here on the Missouri Sports Network. And goodness gracious, I hope that you are correct. And if you are, I'll send you a text and maybe send you a loaf of bread or something just to ease my mind. But what were your responsibility? Are you going to be at the game? How will you cover it?
I will be at the game, so on game days, especially for a playoff game, I'll probably end up getting there probably between 12 and 1 for the 5:30 kickoff. So it's a long day, but it's a fun day.
You bet. Hey, and as always, greatly appreciate you being part of the show, and I can't wait till we get to hook back up. And I've really enjoyed the visit.
Hey, if the Chiefs win, I'll be in Phoenix. So if you want to catch up then and talk about the Chiefs in the Super Bowl, let's do it.
Absolutely. Matt Derrick, publisher and lead beat writer for ChiefsDigest.com, and you're listening to the Missouri Sports Network at MissouriSportsNetwork.com, where everyone has a home field advantage, and I hope that continues on Sunday evening with the Chiefs. Have a great day. God bless everybody.